Yes, so welcome to yet another episode of Beizzo's Kiboozi. And if you can't hear it well, there's some sort of excitement in my voice. And that is because I'm about to clock 50 episodes. That's a big milestone. That's a year doing this podcast. And what does that mean to me? I need to analyze, see what has worked, what hasn't worked, and see how to make this podcast better. Obviously, the video should also come in soon, and we see ourselves to the next step. So there is something I'm trying to prepare you, my listeners, for the period that I will do episodes after episode 50. Now, a backstory on Beizzo's Kiboozi, why I chose that specific name. I chose that specific name because at the beginning, I was actually not very sure of what I wanted to do with this journey. At the time, I was listening to more of self-improvement, doing more of things that benefit us, that benefit our life. And going on and on and on, this is going to be episode, I think, 48. Yeah, I'm now starting to see that you can't take life so seriously, you know? You have to put in a little humor, you have to put in a little authenticity and see that there's a shift always, because we're always learning, we're always doing better, we're always going to the next level. That doesn't mean that I'm going to change the podcast totally. I'm going to just twist a little bit of the narrative so that it's a little bit more interesting. You see, for someone to give time to your episodes, to give time to your podcast, it should be really interesting. Now, I've also learned that I have a very slow dialect, so I try to speak a little bit faster. But even when I speak faster, I find that it's still slow. Maybe because I've been with my voice for the last 27 years. And there's nothing much I can change. All I can do is change the delivery. So, going back to the title being Beizzo's Kiboozi. For my Ugandan listeners, you know what Kiboozi means. For those that are out, Kiboozi means conversation. Now, it had to be that open, that it had to be about anything. It had to bring in any topic and make sense out of it. It's still going to be the same thing, but with a little more humor, with a little bit of more relatability, with a little bit of it not being as though you're listening to that unsolicited, that guy you didn't call to advise you. So that's something I'm trying to do. Now, the podcast has been something that was working for me and has worked for me. Most of the advice I give here, I do practice it myself to see whether I need to go forward in life or to take a little pause. So most of the things were me. And most of them were maybe ChatGPT, most of them were copying from other people, most of them were collected ideas, you know. Being a creative is actually a very hard thing. That's something I have learned. But this is not the episode to give a breakthrough of how the time to reach this episode has been. Like how the whole podcast has been towards my life and all that. But all you know is I'm trying to pivot and I'm trying to change the conversation and make it a little bit better. So I'll try with this one. And for this episode, I'm going to talk about mental health. Now, you see, mental health is something we do not talk about in Africa, and most especially in Uganda. I had some colleague of mine say that if there are 3 people in Uganda, one person is concerned about mental health, the other 2 gave up, or the other 2 found something else to do. Now, if you talk to your parents, they'll tell you maybe you should pray about whatever is depressing you. Depression is even not a topic in African society. Or, okay, of recent it is, but it wasn't, because all those looked like luxurious, Muzungu-like, or white people-like things. I think even for the black people out there in maybe UK, maybe in the US, depression is not something. It is just something that has just started right now, based on maybe, I think, the information age, when people started knowing what exactly is going on. But I will not dismiss the fact that in Africa, even with the information, we still don't take some of these things seriously. Personally, I also don't. But mental health is something really key, and this is just an episode to put a touch to it and maybe talk about it and see maybe what do I pick from it. What do I need to say about mental health? Men are struggling. Women too also struggle, but they have at least 3 steps ahead when they are born. Otherwise, let's dive into the episode and see if I can try out this format that I want to do of pivoting a bit to make it a little bit funny, interesting, but also solution oriented and also helpful. These conversations, Beizzo Kiboozi, have to be conversations that impact society. One of my oldest taglines was voices to open your mind. I've never used it anywhere, but as I was building onto making the episodes or making the podcast as a whole, one of the things that was in my mind was voices that open your mind. So voices that open your mind means that I had to have guests, I had to have very many people around this whole podcast, and that is something I'm going to intentionally do following my 50th episode. And on my 50th episode, I'll be celebrating 1 year, and God willing, I'll be on video. Otherwise, let's dive in and let's keep it at Beizzo Kiboozi. I already said that word at the end, but I'm just diving into the episode. This is Beizzo Kiboozi. I have never met a Ugandan that claims to be a psychiatrist or something. And I think personally it's because it's not good business. It's not good business to be a psychologist or those guys that work with the brain, mental health, whatever, in an African country, because therapy is not really something here, They could tell you maybe if you're feeling depressed or something, if you're feeling weird, because it won't even be called depression. If you're feeling weird, maybe you should pray about it. Maybe those are demons from your ancestors, things like that. So I've not really found a guy that claims to be a psychiatrist or someone doing those mental health things, guys, therapists, all that. If there are any, I think it's a ratio of 1 to 1,000, because, man, unless I'm not well informed, but even when you hear mental wellness month, mental what, the guys that are normally there are these guidance and counseling guys at school. It is not a real psychiatrist or a guy that knows what is happening with your brain cells, knows what is happening with your behaviors, because the whole of Africa and Uganda, as specific as it can be, we have confused resilience and put it in the sense of we need to avoid that. We need to avoid thinking that we are weak, thinking that we are what. Now, personally, if I'm to shift the story or the narrative to me as a person, I grew up in a household. I don't know. My parents actually started listening to my podcasts, and not my dad yet, but my mom and my brothers and my sisters. And our household, the truth is that it was the best place to grow in and also the worst place to grow in. There's a mix of all that. But something I've learned of recent is you need to forgive parents for the things they did in making you who you are. Because, Africa and how we bring up our children to see that they survive in all circumstances. You see, a black person that goes to the UK or to the US or to even Qatar, Abu Dhabi, UAE, man, guys survive because of the way we were groomed down here. You are shaped that you don't even see anything. The only other thing you believe in is God and believe in yourself, and then you work hard. There is nothing like crying because someone has backed at you. Maybe these new Gen Zs, there's a new Generation Z wave of being entitled and all that. I made an episode about it, but the truth is, in Uganda and Africa as a whole, the whole thing of mental health is not a very serious issue. And why? It's because of the whole nature of society. Some of these things look like they are imported deficiencies, I could say. Depression is an imported deficiency. Guys even never knew what the word means. It's like the words I learned when I entered the mixed school. Those are the things you learn when you reach there. I say maybe you grow old. That's when you learn such things. Depression. This guy is weak. Oh my, this guy ADHD. Oh, this guy what? Nothing. For us who are living life like commandos. So in my father's household, there was no crying. There was no being there and you're stressed. Don't talk to me because I'm stressed or what. If you're stressed, you look for a new place to live. If you're depressed, you don't want they talk to you. You don't want they correct you. You look for a new place to live. So that is how we grew up. So don't expect me after growing up like that to think that I'll need therapy or what. Yes, I've realized of recent that I may need it for a few things, because when you're going to now start working with other cultures, you need to understand how those cultures work. You may be speaking normally and someone will say you're aggressive. I'm sorry to say, but they would say white people would think we are aggressive because of the way we speak. Yet for us, we think it's normal. Now that comes from, if you want to learn how to live with other cultures, you'll have to maybe have therapy. You'll have to see, for some people, you'll have to meet God, and it irons out your understanding of everything. But back to mental health, you see, I believe it's something that we neglected as Africa, but it's going to eat us up so much, because I believe the success of any human being starts from upstairs. If you're confused and messed up, there is nothing you're going to do downwards. because the brain, whatever the brain perceives, it creates into reality. If you're depressed, if you're someone that is not well, you need to seek for help. Leave the African thing. Yes, I agree that we are supposed to be strong, because in Africa, vulnerability is more weakness. Showing that side that you're soft, you're what. We are not tamed in that way, or we are not brought up to be like that. We are brought up to fight for ourselves and see the African dream made. Though someone told me recently, all the dreams are rigged, but that's a story for another day. You need to seek help if you feel you need it. If you need to go beyond this mental health, we need to move past the stigma of people who are not mentally stable or things like that, because it's a normal thing, and maybe because of their experiences, they are the way they are. You see, this whole mental health thing should be a reality in Africa and also Uganda. You know, we can't leave it out, because our brains need to be at peace. Our mental health needs to be in check. You know, if your body or physical health is okay, then also your mental health should be okay. The first thing is to normalize talking about it. You know, our parents didn't normalize talking about sex, and so sex became a big problem, things like that. It became that big ambiguous thing. So I don't want that to be the same with mental health. It's something you need to talk to your children about. If you're a parent listening to this, that man, at times when you get depressed, at times when you'll have mixed emotions, at times when people will come to you when they are in that state, when they don't know, you need to know how to handle them. So we need to normalize that. Actually, we need to normalize talking, because when you don't talk about something and it happens, you end up getting hurt so much. I will put it in the sense of that sexual reproductive health. Is it knowledge? Education, yes. Sex education. Now you see, parents, me growing up, parents didn't really talk about it that much. You had to pick it off the internet, and by the internet I don't want to mean watching porn, but you had to pick off things bit by bit. You see this person talking about it, you pick a bit. But you know, everything that I have learned from my parents has stuck to my mind the longest. Now imagine they talk to me about the sexual health and all that, and maybe now also the mental health thing. All that would have stuck to my brain. But the ambiguity that we create in Africa and also in Uganda is what creates the actual problem, because people are more curious to do the wrong thing. That's why you see teenage pregnancies. Some are raped, but that's why you see most of those things happen. That's why you when you open the gate for your young daughter to go to the university, you find that most of those girls are the ones that are hanging out with sugar daddies. They're the ones hanging. Even the boys, you find they're the ones hanging out with sugar mommies. They're the ones who are wasting their life at campus. Why? Because there was no exposure at the right time. We all think sometimes that maybe this person is too young to know that, but in that being young, they get to know the whole thing better. So we need to normalize talking about all these things. And then also therapy. Now, therapy is an expensive word in Uganda. It's an expensive word everywhere. Yeah, therapy is something, like I've told you, I've I've not met a guy who tells me he's a psychiatrist or something, he's a therapist. Because it's not good business in Africa. People in Africa tend to not get mental disorders, or there is no patient. So guys really don't run in for that for that career. So most of them end up in maybe psychology or something. But therapy needs to be something that we see, to make it first of all cheaper, to make it more accessible. I've heard of an app, I'm not advertising it, and it's called BetterHelp. And I want to reach the point where I'll be saying that, oh, BetterHelp is sponsoring this episode, but no. Okay, with BetterHelp, you find therapists. You're tailored to a therapist who can help you with any issue that you have. We could do the same solutions in Uganda and see that people have they have better mental capacity or better mental state. Yeah. Now, for my men out there, you're the guys that this episode was actually for, but I really didn't open it widely. Okay, I didn't really direct the conversation in that line. But men are the people that keep quiet the most on all these areas of mental health and all those other things. Now, it is because we are groomed to be strong, to not show weakness, to be the heads of the family, to be the providers, to be the protectors. You can't be a protector when you're weak. But as a man, you can always get a support group. Personally, support groups have worked for me. I'm part of a support group called Insight Hub. You can really search them around. They are very good gentlemen around me. Then also my good friends. I have three. We're a group of 4. I have 4 friends of mine around me that really help where that mental health thing comes in. You know, when you have a support system, you find ways of navigating through different episodes of your life. And so I think as a man, you should always have that group of people around you. Even a lady, you can always have Mothers Union for those that are, then girls, maybe fellowship or something that will help you better go through all these episodes. You know, we can't do life single-handedly. No man is an island, and you need to get your own tribe, you know. We are built to socialize. That's how human behavior is. We are built to socialize. So let's not wait for when it is too late and people run mad. I saw a stat somewhere that by 2050, 95% of Ugandans will have run mad. I don't really believe that. Maybe that was a funny stat, but it could get true. Then we need to create the safe spaces. Now, for women, I don't know about your thing, because sometimes you tell your friend what you're going through, and the next thing you know, they have told it to someone else. Even guys, sometimes, some guys, they may be a culprit, but we need to create safe spaces. You see, you are allowed to be there and you're not okay. You're allowed to also admit that you're not okay, because it is that strength that you admit that you're not okay that will make you be okay. Otherwise, this is Beizzo Kiboozi, and for this time, I'll say something. This is Beizzo Kiboozi, where real conversations start. Otherwise, keep it at Beizzo Kiboozi. See you next Monday.